Oh.
Hi.
Hey, I see you, Crystal.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Our presenter today is Connor. You can stand up. Woo! Let's give Connor a round of applause. Welcome to SIIT. So Connor will be sharing his story, and hopefully after that we have time for a Q&A. Yeah, so I guess the stage is yours.
All right, thank you. All right. So last year it was estimated that about 1.4 million adults in the United States identify as transgender, and trans individuals represent about 0.5% of the Canadian population. That's just under 181,500 Canadians. And of all the people in North America who identify as under the transgender umbrella stood in a line, that line would go from the earth to the moon 9 times. I'm just kidding. Don't tell your friends that. I made that up. Do not tell anybody that. Here is a real fact, though. There's a 99% chance that you're looking at a transgender individual right now. I'm only leaving that 1% out for the person cruising Grindr, not looking at me. This is a disclaimer here. This is my own personal story. My story doesn't represent every trans individual's story. It doesn't even represent all the trans men's story. It's just my own, just like yours isn't the same as the person sitting next to you, just as yours isn't the same as your siblings. It's different. My other disclaimer is that I am an American. I'm from the States. So you're gonna hear me say words that sound familiar to you, but in a different way. Example, I'm not gonna say process, I'm gonna say process, because it's easier for me. I'm not gonna say against, I'm gonna say against, and my friends say I say Canada weird, so sorry. Like she said, my name is Connor. My name is Connor Rodriguez. I'm 25 years old. I'm Puerto Rican. Like I said, I'm from the States. I'm from Orlando, Florida. I've been living here about 1.5 years with my beautiful fiance, Chelsea, who is here. And I like to call her my Beyonce because she's pretty awesome. Together we have a very one-of-a-kind and equally as gorgeous daughter. She's 14. She is not here. So I'm from Orlando. I come from a Hispanic family and a very Christian family at that. So right away, very young, I knew what was right and what was wrong. One of the things, being gay was definitely a no-no. So being a tomboy growing up, I knew that that's all I could be. It's cute to be a tomboy as a little kid. It's not cute when you're older. It's something you're supposed to grow out of. Something I didn't grow out of. I definitely knew that I liked girls, and I figured since I'm in a female body and I like girls, that means I'm a lesbian. Come to find out later on, that's not so much the case, but at the time I didn't know there was anything different than that. I came out to my mom unintentionally. In fact, she kind of ripped me out of the closet. I used to only come out to my journals and to some select friends in school. Well, one day it was a rare time that I had gone to my dad's house for the weekend. I came home and I knew my mom was in a weird mood, so I thought I'm just gonna go straight to my room, gonna hang out there, maybe have a shower, have school the next day, and then go to sleep. Well, I went into my room and I noticed something was off in my room. Stuff was everywhere, and in this bottom drawer where I kept those journals I was talking about was open, no journals, no notes, no anything in there. My mom had been looking for something, and as kids do, sometimes they take their parents' things. So she just went in my room looking for it, came across these journals, got nosy, started reading it. Boom, I came out without realizing I was coming out to my mom. Well, like I said, I came from a very Christian family. That was not okay. After an hour or two, who knows, of crying, yelling, screaming, all this stuff, and finally me saying, it was just a phase, I don't know. I didn't mean it, I'm not actually gay, no, and denying that part of myself, it kind of settled down, but that was when I was 12, and this was something that would go on for many, many years after. It was a tug of war with my mom and myself, and I was primarily raised by my mom, my grandma too, and like I said, very, very heavy in the Christian faith. We went we went to church 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes more, because my grandma basically worked there, and I love my grandma very much, so I'd go and hang out with her. So very heavily influenced by the Christian faith, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. This brought my mom to putting me in therapy for trying to get the gay out of me and stuff, which obviously didn't help. It wasn't just at home that I was having issues. I was having issues in school too. Like I said, I come out to a few select people. Those people like to tell other people who it was not okay to be gay with. So I got picked on quite a bit in school, which then led me to have very few friends, actually, because when there's someone who's being picked on and such, I promise this story gets a little bit better, guys. It's a little sad right now. It does get better. But when there's someone who's being pointed at as the freak, as different, as not the normal one, people don't like to associate with that, and that's just kind of human nature, I guess, in some ways. Like I said, it does get better. I moved schools a few times, and I ended up going to, it was once I was in high school, I met people who were more like me, more not afraid to be out, more not afraid to say, okay, yeah, I'm gay, yeah, I'm different, so what? I read a lot of gay literature. This one school that had a GSA, a Gay Straight Alliance, and that helped tremendously. I didn't, it would help so much, I just wanted to meet people more like me. Later on, ended up, this was a very, I'm just kind of breezing over it, but this was a very hard thing for me to go through. Growing up with this Christian faith, I felt like there was definitely something wrong with me. I spent so many nights like crying and praying to God that just change me. Like I wish I didn't like women. I wish I was different. Like many times I wished I would just wake up as a guy, so it wouldn't be a weird thing, so it wouldn't be off. But none of that ever happened. I did end up, when this is 19, 20, I did start volunteering a lot more in the gay community. By this point, I kind of said, screw it, it is what it is. I found plenty more people who had also said screw it, so I felt a lot better about it and being more open and honest with myself. I started going to this one, it's called we called it Oh Yeah, it was OYA, it was Orlando Youth Alliance. So this was for everyone under the LGBT spectrum to go and just hang out and have a talk. And this was the first time someone had asked me what my pronouns were. We would go around in a circle and they'd say your name, say your pronoun, and answer a random question. That's how we started all of the meetings. This is the first time I had heard that. I had just assumed I have a female body, I am a female. So the first couple of times I would say my name, say my female pronouns, and answer whatever question it was. But I started hearing people who would one week come in and have female pronouns, one week come in and have male pronouns, and I started thinking maybe I can toy around with that too. So one time I came in, my heart was pounding hard and I was shaking, and I had knew these people after coming to these meetings enough times, but I came in and I said my name, and when I said my pronouns, I said she, her, he, him, whatever you want, whatever works for you. And that was the first time I had kind of explored that, gender bending, maybe something can be different. And when people started calling me more by those masculine pronouns, it was affirming. It felt so much better than being called she or her. So that was definitely the first time that I started questioning, maybe my gender isn't what I initially thought it was. Maybe this is something different than my birth sex. So I have this awesome, website called Tumblr and this awesome website called YouTube that I started exploring these things in. Exploring things about being trans, which I didn't have the word for before. I also started, I like to be on the stage, so I started to explore being a drag king, which I'm sure many people know what a drag queen is. It's basically the opposite. It's someone who is female who dresses as a man, usually for entertainment. And so I started exploring those things. Again, YouTube, Tumblr, those things really helped me out. There's so much, the World Wide Web, crazy guys. So I started doing that, and that's actually how I came across my name. I decided I was gonna be a drag king, and my name a little raunchy. It was Connor Lingus. So I started going by Connor, and I started performing. Well, no, take a step back for a moment. I was only doing it at, like online, like drag. So I would paint myself and post pictures and all this stuff. Finally, one day I said, I actually do want to do this. And this is a bit of a touchy subject that I won't really be going in too much. It's still pretty sensitive for me. I wish I could say these words and you guys wouldn't know what I was talking about, but I'm sure everybody's heard of Pulse Orlando. There was a huge tragedy last year with it. Well, that was the first club I had ever gone to. That was the first place I ever performed at, and eventually I ended up working there. It's a very, very, I guess it's still a very sensitive subject for me, but it's definitely a part of my story. So I started performing at Pulse, and like I said, eventually I started working there, and it really those are my chosen that's my chosen family. I made a deep community with there since by this point I was a little estranged from my family. I didn't really talk to my biological family anymore. I did see them here and there, but it was just really hard. I was really conflicted with trying to be the person they wanted me to be and trying to be as authentic as I could to myself. So it was definitely something, I just chose to distance myself from them so that I could be as happy as I could be at that time, though it does hurt being away from them. So, like I said, my Pulse family, they became my chosen family. These are the people who are still my best friends. I consider them my family. And this caused me to have to realize that I need to come out again. Like, not only did I have to come out as gay before, and that went just lovely, now I have to come out again and to something most people don't even understand. Now I have to come out and say, like, I know I said that I was gay, but actually, I'll have you know, I'm a trans guy. Luckily, I did have this more of a cushion. I did have these people here who were very supportive, who were very loving, and I started off with my closest friends, as you usually do, and I got love and support from them. So I started telling some of my close friends, just not, as close friends, and then I started telling people, just random people. I started telling people that I would encounter. I started introducing myself as Connor, even though I wasn't sure that was going to be my name yet. Just so many people started calling, only knew me as Connor. It became, I did become Connor. But that was a couple of years ago. That I've been socially transitioned is kind of what it's called when, you haven't done anything medically or whatever. So I was socially transitioned. Everyone knew to call me by male pronouns. Everyone knew me as Connor. I still hadn't told my family anything. Some of my extended family members had known things because of social media, though I did, by that point, had made a new Facebook, had made a new Instagram, completely separate from it. I did have some extended family that found me, and things kind of went okay with that, but obviously my mom would not have any of that, so I had not told her. October 12th marks National Coming Out Day. And this last National Coming Out Day in 2016, I had had enough. I had said, you know what, it's so hard. It's so hard, like I'm not even in the same country as them anymore. And I'm still so scared to let them know. Like, I need to tell them. I need to let them know. So I couldn't give her a call. That was too hard for me. So I wrote a letter because I do better with those things. And if you'll let me, I'd like to read you the letter real quick. I wrote this to my mom and my dad. I sent my dad a text because he gets pretty quick, and my mom an email because she gets that the best. So I said, I'm writing to you because I'm thoroughly exhausted by the guilt I feel over not living an authentic life. I'm so tired of distancing myself from you all out of fear of being shunned, unaccepted, and/or disappointment. Today is National Coming Out Day, and for me today has been a long time coming. I'm a transgender man, and I've been identifying as such for about 3 to 4 years. Unfortunately, I've never felt accepted enough to safely come out to my family before now, It's taken a lot of self-love, kindness from friends, and acceptance from strangers to get to the place where I am now. Although it was scary at first to be open and honest, I am way happier now than I ever was before. So now that you know I am trans, I want you to call me by my chosen name, Connor, and by male pronouns, he, his, him. I understand this may take time to get used to and there may be slip-ups, but I will see your efforts. And however, I will also notice if you blatantly don't accept me. I hope this is a start to a new, genuine, loving relationship, always and forever, Connor L. Rodriguez. I didn't hear a response for a little over a month, and then I heard something from my dad. He said, "Hi, I'm sorry I haven't texted you before. I'm dealing with a lot. I'm now trying to understand you and how you feel. I never told you who to be or how to be. It's your choice. I love you and I just want you to be happy." So that was great. We haven't really talked about it since then. About a week after that, I got a response from my mom. She said, "I just wanted to send you a little note to let you know not one day passes by that I don't think about you and pray for you. I'm thankful for the privilege of having you as my firstborn daughter. I love and miss you tremendously and pray you always have food to eat and shelter. Know that no matter what, I will always be here for you, my princess." So obviously she didn't quite get the message correctly. I didn't answer her. About a month later, I got another email from her saying, "Just writing a quick email to say no matter what, you are my daughter. I love you and will always be here for you." So salt wound, there it was. My mom and I still haven't really talked. She sent me like another email or so, but there's not much to say with that right now, and I'm not in the place where I can really talk to her about that. So, I just that's kind of basically my story. The only thing where I'm at now is I started HRT. HRT, if you don't know, is hormone replacement therapy. So I started testosterone a little over a month ago. It's very important for many, but it's not for everyone. Just because you're trans doesn't mean that you need to have any surgeries, doesn't mean that you need to go on any hormones or anything. It's just it makes your outside match what's inside for a lot of people. But again, it's not necessary. Just because someone's trans doesn't mean that they need to go. There's plenty of people who don't want any surgeries, who don't want any medication for it. They just want to be acknowledged for how they feel. And that's totally okay. The reason why a lot of people have this is this thing called dysphoria. You may or may not have heard it. Basically, dysphoria is an uneasiness with your body. Sometimes it's pointed at something in particular. Like for me, I have really bad chest dysphoria. I wear binders, which is a chest compressor, and I wear them because it's much safer than like ACE bandage. Please don't ever use ACE bandage. It can fracture your ribs and puncture organs and stuff. Please go safe about it if you're going to be using this. But I use chest binders to make me appear to have a flatter chest, because it makes my dysphoria go away some. Sometimes even with feeling like I have a flat chest, I still know my dysphoria is there. There are good days, there are bad days. It's the same thing with everyone else. People have bottom dysphoria, which is kind of the same thing, but with what's between your legs. There are surgeries that you can have, and I won't really go into them. I'm just gonna say that for male to females, M to Fs, it's a much easier procedure than it is for female to males. There are two different kinds of surgeries for female to males. There's one called meadow and there's one called phalloplasty. The meadow one is basically where they use your own natural growth from usually testosterone and enlarge that in a way. There are usually a lot of complications with both of these different procedures, and phalloplasty uses skin grafts, usually either from your arm or from your leg, to make a penis. Basically, it usually you usually have to have several procedures. It's not perfect yet. That's all I'm going to say on that. And and also with the HRT, depending on where you live, determines on the access you get to it. Some places require you to go to a psychiatrist first and get diagnosed with dysphoria, to then go to your family doctor, to then get to your endocrinologist, and that's the person who will prescribe you medication. I do want to say that being trans doesn't mean hating yourself, and in fact, I think it means loving yourself enough that you know that you don't want to live, you know, in this state of mind or in this body, you know, and you're brave enough to be able to do something about it. Like, I like to see my life as like her and me now, you know, like without her, I couldn't be me now. I'm very thankful for her. She was so strong, you know, to go through all of this. She kept me alive. She got me to where I am right now. So I'm very thankful for that. It's a lot of self-love. Sometimes it feels like it's hate because you hate certain things about your body or you hate certain things that happen to you, but it's not hate, you know. If you're brave enough to go for it, if you're brave enough to say something, that's love. That's love for yourself. So some people may know November 20th is Transgender Day of Remembrance. It's where we mourn and honor all the gorgeous lives we've lost to transphobia globally. But a lot of things with trans stuff is really sad. You know, a lot of things we hear about all the murders, we hear about all the suicide rates, you know, these skyrocketing suicide rates. We hear about all these things. When you see trans people portrayed in movies, you see them as, you know, like the prostitute, which prostitution is very high in trans women in particular. And you see all the bad, you see the murdered stuff, like it's all bad. So like this week, Gender Diversity Awareness Week is a good thing. And then March 31st, it's a day to celebrate who we are. And it's a day to celebrate those who are in transition, who have transitioned. It's called International Day of Visibility. It's very important. It's dedicated to raising awareness, and it presents an opportunity for positive focus on trans lives. It puts our presence in public domains, and that's very important because if you're a trans youth right now and you go and you look on TV and you see Laverne Cox on Orange is the New Black, you see Chaz Bono on American Horror Story, see Laith Ashley, a successful model, and he's on like an Oxygen show. You see Aiden Dowling, he's the first trans man to be on the cover of Men's Health and Fitness magazine. It gives you hope, it keeps you alive, and it helps. It helps not only people who are confused or in the middle, it helps the youth. And you know, they say it time and time again, you know, children are the future. Eventually we won't be here, these kids will be. So it's very important that we have this visibility here. We also need to respect the fact that not everybody wants to be seen. Like, there are a lot of trans people out, but you may not even know it. You know, you have to respect that. I was preparing myself to talk to you guys and reading many articles and trying to get a wide perspective of things, and I came across this one article written by Caleb Brooks. He's this trans man doing some great work, especially in Latin America, and he said, I know we aren't all lawyers, advocates, and activists. Some of us just want to be. And it's so true. Some of us don't want to be right here in this position. Some of us don't want people to be nitpicking our lives and seeing what happened and where, you know, like where you're at. Some people just want to be, and there is a word for people who are trans and don't want anyone to know. It's called being stealth. If you hear, some of you may have heard that before. It's basically people who have gone stealth. Usually they're in another place they've never even been. They don't have. It doesn't necessarily mean this, but usually they didn't grow up there. You know, nobody knows them as anything but who they present themselves to be, and that is totally okay. That is, sometimes you also can't be open and visible about it because it can be dangerous. It can be very dangerous. For me, I feel safe enough that I can talk to you guys. I can be visible in my daily life, and I'm very fond of saying I stay visible for those who can, because I know that I can, I'm able to, so I do it. And that doesn't make me like a super trans, like that doesn't make me better than anybody else. You know, I am just able to do that, and that's great. And I encourage anybody who is transgender, who wants to make a difference in their community, but doesn't know where to start and is safe enough to, start with being visible. Tell your friends you're trans. Tell people. You hear somebody saying something, you know, a little transphobic, call them out on it, you know, and be like, look, I'm trans, that offends me. Hey, don't do that. And you know what? That is a perfect place to start. Now, what if you're not trans and you want to make a difference in the transgender community? You're an ally. That's what you want to be. What is an ally? Transgender allies are non-trans people, or cisgender, you might have heard that term, people whose support is focused on the trans community, but also you can be an ally for anything. Please don't just stop at being a trans ally. Be an ally for the whole LGBT community. Be an ally for anything that needs support. You know, ally away. Like, it's great. How can you be a trans ally though? I wrote down a couple of things here. Just give you guys some tips. First thing, and I am very serious about this, never out anyone. The act of outing a trans person can potentially be endangering their jobs, it could be endangering their families, it could be endangering their bodies. Even if you're sure that, you know, it's gonna be okay with everybody there, don't. That's an oopsie you can't fix. You know, that's something that if you told everyone and you're like, they have gay friends, you know, they're super chill or whatever, you don't know what that person's got through. Maybe it just rubs them the wrong way. It could be potentially very dangerous for the person you outed. Ask for preferred pronouns. It might seem a little weird when you think about it at first, but honestly, it's the best thing you can do. If you don't know what somebody's pronoun is, what they use, it's polite to ask without making a big deal out of it. You know, I would 100% much rather someone go up to me and be like, hey Connor, what pronouns do you use? I would gladly tell you he, him. I use male pronouns. I would much rather that than you assume, even if you got it right. I would much rather that than you just assume what my pronouns are, or if you to make a mistake that kind of makes you look weird now. You're like, hey, this is Connor, she's from Orlando. I'd be like, what the heck? You know, like, why didn't you just ask me? So just don't make a big deal. Simple question. Speaking of making a big deal, if you make a mistake on someone's pronouns, we're humans. It's okay. Don't make a big deal out of it. There's nothing worse you can do than to be like, he, she, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, like, I made a mistake, like, I'm really sorry, like, it's okay, you know I think of you, like, no, it's okay, like, I promise you. Seriously, guys, you make a mistake, you call me she, just say he, sorry. Keep going on with it. Simple, blah, blah, done. You know, it makes no difference. But it does make a difference if you're making a huge deal out of it, because then the rest of the conversation, I'm gonna be like, that was so weird. Why did they do that? Like, why didn't they just, okay, that was really weird. And then I'm gonna start going into my, like, brain, like, maybe they don't think of me as male, like, and it causes issues. So don't make a big deal. Know what's offensive. Educate yourselves. The internet is a wonderful thing. Google the crap out of it, okay? There is lots of words that can be highly offensive or point blank just hurt someone. And it's easy to hurt someone, it's hard to take away that hurt. So definitely educate yourselves on those things. Like, don't ask invasive questions. Don't ask questions about operation status or hormones or treatments. Like I said, resist the urge to do that. Not everybody wants operations, not everybody wants treatments, and some people don't like, even if they are doing those things, don't want to talk about it. But be open to listen to those things too. Make sure that if you have a trans friend that they know, you can talk to them, or they can talk to you, you know, and that you'll listen to them, you'll be open. That's another thing, is listen, you know. Your transgender friend or your partner is not a PSA, they're not necessarily a teaching moment. But their lives and the challenges that they face are important, and they deserve to be heard, just like my story deserves to be heard right now, you know, and it's a great honor. So make sure that you are open and receptive to that. Now, this is a big one, and it has multiple parts in it. Never make assumptions. There's so many things that you should never make assumptions about. You may know a trans person and not realize it, so don't assume someone's gender. This happened to my fiance and I last night. We went out for supper, and the waitress came up to us and was like, "Hey ladies, like what can I get for you guys?" Well, why did you have to say that? Why couldn't you come up and be like, "Hi everyone, hi you two, hi y'all," you know? Like, why couldn't she just do that instead of automatically saying, "Hey ladies," it's taken me a while because I'm very fond of saying, "Hey guys," but then now I think about it and I'm like, am I assuming their genders? You know, like is it just comfortable to say this? But it try, think about those things. Keep that in the back of your noggin somewhere. Don't assume one person's story is the same for everyone else. This is kind of like my disclaimer. Not everybody had a crappy growing up life. Some people come out to their families and it's lovely. It's great. They have super supportive families. Not everybody has a bad family, so don't go up to someone and be like, was it really hard coming out? So how's the strain with you and your family? Some people they'll look at you like, what? Like I was just at my mom's house. Like it was good. So don't make assumptions about somebody's family. Don't make assumptions about people's personal history, romantic relationships, or feelings that they have in their own lives on themselves. As far as that romantic relationship, don't assume their sexual orientation. Your sexual orientation's over here, your gender identity is over here. Two different things. Sexual orientation, who you go to bed with. Gender identity is who you go to bed as. Who you want to go to bed with, sexual orientation. Who you go to bed as, gender identity. Two different things. And my last tip for being a pro-trans ally is get political. Now this isn't for everyone, but it is a very important one. Get educated on the legal challenges facing trans people. This is everything from accessing medical care to being protected against discrimination at work to the stupid bathroom bill going on in the States. Gender neutral bathrooms and things like that's very important. And if you're ready to add your voice, get active about this. Sign petitions, lobby your local Congress people. All this information is on like Saskatoon websites. Find who's in charge of these things and give them a call and say, what are you doing about this? If you hear something going on, go out for it. There's, especially around Pride time and stuff, there's lots of these people who are specifically dealing with things who are out there. Sign petitions and stuff. And and be a vocal part of developing these laws and regulations that protect trans lives, because we need more protection. We definitely need more protections. And if you're there thinking like, oh, these are just LGBT issues, like whatever, well, so will everyone else. So talk about it with your friends. Let them know, like, these are human rights issues. These are civil rights issues. And you know what? If they can take away the human rights of somebody, they can take the human rights away from you too. It's very important. So I need you to stay visible too. I need the allies to be as visible as they can as well. And I'm just gonna leave you with this, because if you don't take anything else from me today, I urge you to keep this in mind. And I'm just gonna paraphrase Susie Wrong. She's an Australian transgender woman of color. She said, visibility is an important step to our goals. Protection, acceptance, and ultimately equality. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for giving me the incredible honor of letting me tell my story. Thank you, Nikki, for inviting me, and SIT for letting me hang out, feeding me.
Well, as part of SIT, we'd like to thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Connor.
Thank you.
Honestly, I had to ask Nikki, does he do this professionally? Like, that was,
This is my
He
first
does it
time.
here. How many people are going to be there?
I thought you were going to be there. Like,
What are we having for lunch?
yeah, I know, right? Like, I'm upset there's no Bannock. Like, what the hell? Yeah, no, I mean, I would eventually like to do more of this stuff. This is my first time, so thank you guys. You guys have been amazing. And I will open it up for if anybody has any questions. I'll try to answer the best of my ability, but I don't know everything.
any questions, anyone? Oh, Laura at the back there.
Sort of support your last point about being political. In Saskatchewan, in the Human Rights Code, gender identity was not a covered ground of protection explicitly in the Human Rights Code, and it was because of the activism of particularly the trans community, but also the allies. Like, I know I wrote a letter to one of the members of Legislative Assembly and stuff, and that changed. They listened. So this government that's currently sitting said, we're not including it. It doesn't need to be there for whatever reason. And people wrote, and people had a campaign. It was a very organized campaign, and it changed, and they did change, and they listened. So when you are organized and when you do have a voice, it does make a difference. And there is actually That same battle is going through federally right now, where gender identity keeps getting blocked as a protected ground of discrimination in the federal jurisdiction, which includes in First Nations communities. So it's an active thing that's happening right now today. So right now it's stuck in the Senate. I believe it's Bill C, I want to say 16. It might not be 16. Don't quote me on that. She said it was 16. Anyway, so that's just to give us a very specific example of something that today you could write somebody about, so you can talk to your member of parliament, or you can share it on social media, but that's something that is currently happening, and it has already several times gone through all the way to the Senate level, and it's been killed for various reasons. So that's something you can do today if you want to be a good ally and you want to do something political, because it has made a difference in our province. So.
Yeah, definitely. And if anyone has any questions about those things, though, you have a wonderful resource of Out Saskatoon here, and they're very knowledgeable about everything that's going on. Like, I go to some trans meetings that are facilitated out of there called Gender Revolution, and it's a small, like, developing group. There's like less than 20, sometimes between 20 and 30. That's a very large group. It's usually a lot smaller than that, and we're definitely trying to get more out there as we're growing in it. But I mean, if you have more questions about those things, you don't really know where to start, definitely give someone a call at Out Saskatoon, because they know so much and they know where you could start, you know, to be an ally. So thank you very much.
Does anyone else have any more questions?
I have a question. So coming here from where you were, coming to small town Saskatoon,
Right.
never mind Saskatchewan, how has that been for you? Because some of the things here that it's not always pleasant. So has it been good? Has it been?
Overall, it's been good. I've come into a couple of issues, particularly with bathrooms, that I do use the male restroom. I mainly look for like a unisex bathroom, a family restroom, you know, like a handicap, like a single stall kind of restroom is where I prefer to go, since I don't always pass or blend in very well. But I have had a couple of times, nothing physical, but I have had, it's usually like at a bar with drunk people, you know, like who've come afterwards at me and been like, hey, you know, you're in a men's restroom. And I'm like, yeah, did you? Like, and so I have had like little issues like that, or I have walked into the restroom and been like, nope, and like walked out and stuff. And you know, that can be a really big issue too. I've heard of a lot of people who have gotten bladder infections from holding their you know, having to pee, and it's actually a major issue, which is why another thing you should push for is like gender neutral bathrooms and stuff. I believe bathrooms should be like the bathrooms at your home. You don't say like you use this bathroom and use that bathroom. It's a bathroom. I know there's more that goes into it that people are, but in the end, like, people just want to pee. So, but that's kind of been the main thing that I've noticed. It's Orlando's a lot more accepting, but there's a lot of people even in Orlando who are scared to use what bathroom they feel most comfortable in because they don't feel comfortable. I know a lot of times, especially in the beginning, for me, with going into the female restroom, I'd get like little kids be like, "This is girls' room," or whatever. It's like, little kids are so funny. So, or I'd get like weird looks from like ladies and stuff. And so I was like, well, I probably shouldn't be using this bathroom anymore. But then I was too scared to go to the men's restroom because I'm like, what if I get beat up? You know, like, what am I gonna do if this big dude's like, you don't belong in here, and wants to do something about it? So, like I said, I haven't noticed too many issues. It is a lot smaller, but it's not as small as you would think. You know, it's pretty decent. Anybody else?
No, I'd just really like to thank you, Connor, for coming and sharing your message, and I'm definitely going to speak more with those high school students on where to go for more information.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, again, with Out Saskatoon, they even have it's like, I forgot what it's called, it's like Rainbow Club or something like that, and it's for like youth.
Younger?
Yeah, so.
All right, guys, let's give Connor